been a momentous, special week in my life with the release of the movie Renegade about my life and work, and it's been incredibly encouraging what's happened. The film went to #1 on the first day in the UK documentary chart on iTunes. It got into the top 15 immediately in the United States. It's the first in other places around the world. Last time I looked, the Czech Republic and others. #3 in Australia. And it's been very, very encouraging. In fact, in Britain, it's got into the top 30 of all movies, including Hollywood feature movies and movies like Bohemian Rhapsody. So it's very, very encouraging what's happened. And because the film is not only for people who've been into my work before, but also to present the information across a great range of subjects in a way that people who know nothing about what I'm writing about, what I'm talking about, can see very easily, immediately, how it all fits together. It's has great potential for increasing the number of people around the world who have access to information that looks at the world, shall we say, from another angle, not just politically and in terms of world events, but also in the nature of reality. That's all in there as well. And it's very, very encouraging to hear from people who have been to the premieres of the film and have taken people along, maybe friends or family who are not into my information at all, didn't know much about it, and for them to say what a tremendous effect it had on those people who saw the world from a different angle and it made sense to them. So that's all good. And so we do need to find more and more ways of communicating this information, because the censorship of those that challenge the official narrative must be seen in the context of what is happening, which is that it's systematic and it's a war on any view or information, any facts that challenge the official narrative of everything. And ironically, I've pointed this out so many times because it is blatantly obvious if you take the time to look at it, it's those who call themselves progressive who are actually the stormtroopers who are driving on behalf of multi-billionaire corporations this censorship of anyone they've been programmed to believe should not have a right to free speech like they do. So this week, another great number of people challenging the official narrative, many times in ways I don't agree with. But that doesn't matter. This is what this progressive mob cannot grasp, is freedom of speech is not about what you agree with. It's about the right to have your opinion. And so there are many people who are being demonetized and banned in this new purge by YouTube, owned by Google and its parent company Alphabet, that I don't agree with, who say things I don't agree with. But I'm not calling for them to be banned. Even the extremes of the progressive mob that I seriously don't agree with, and which are, I would suggest, advancing an agenda without the understanding that's what they're doing most of the time, of a deeply malevolent multi-billionaire elite. But I don't want them banned either. I have the confidence that information will given to people in totality will be powerful in and of itself without needing to ban people who don't agree with it. So I have the confidence to do that. I have the confidence to say, look, put what I'm saying in and circulate it with what everyone else is saying, and I'm confident that what I'm saying has the validity for it to be seen to have validity by people that actually look at it rather than just hear one-liners. Whereas the progressive mob, playing the game of the multi-billionaire elite, don't have that confidence. Self-identity warriors who self-identify with labels, which I don't, do not have the confidence that what they're saying and trying to get people to believe will be seen to have validity when challenged by other opinions. So what they want is other opinions to disappear, so only what they say to be heard by anybody, thus forming the perceptions of the population by default. And it is kind of ironic. Well, it's more than ironic. It's just monumentally ironic that what we're now seeing is the mainstream media who cheer when the alternative media is censored and banned, now being targeted. And I've said from the start that the mainstream media may cheer the targeting of the alternative media, but it will be them eventually, and now it's starting to happen. In the same way, the progressive mob is being used to justify and to demand the censorship of people it don't agree with, but the progressive mob will be subject to that same censorship eventually when it steps out of line. And this week, we've had this story. Australian feds raid broadcaster's office over Afghan war crime stories. Australian police have raided national broadcaster ABC's headquarters over a 2017 story series exposing crimes committed by special forces in Afghanistan, the second raid on journalists in 2 days. 6 officers, including 3 police technicians, descended on the broadcaster's Sydney offices with a warrant explaining the raid was, quote, in retaliation to allegations of publishing classified material contrary to provisions of the Crimes Act 1914. The classified material in question was hundreds of pages of leaked defence documents marked Austeo, Australian Eyes Only, that formed the basis of ABC's 2017 story series, The Afghan Files. The warrant names the report's authors, Dan Oakes and Sam Clark, as well as ABC News director Gavin Morris. The officers rounded up ABC's IT staff to assist in examining their email server, looking for a series of keywords, while others scoured the hard drive. Yes, this is Australia in 2019. Australia, a country I've been saying for a long time, is a tyranny masquerading as a free society. Now we're beginning to see. You see, while the mainstream media adheres to the official narrative and doesn't expose it, then it's fine. Oh, there's no censorship of the alternative, of the mainstream media. They just publish what they want. And then you cross that line, like ABC did here, exposing potential war crimes, I say war crimes, in Afghanistan by Australian troops. And suddenly it's not fine anymore, and in go the feds. So the officers rounded up these ABC IT staff people and scoured others, scoured the hard drive. According to John Lyons, the ABC executive editor and head of investigations department, who live tweeted the raid, officers helpfully told him they were interested in very specific matters and, quote, certain things, dryly noting this could take some time. Lyons reported 4 hours into the raid, they had collected over 9,200 files and were deciding which could be seized under the warrant. It is highly unusual for the national broadcast to be raided in this way, ABC Managing Director David Anderson told News.com Australia, promising to support its journalists, protect its sources, and continue to report without fear or favour on national security and intelligence issues when there is a clear public interest. Now, like going back to what I've just said, it is highly unusual for the national broadcast to be raided in this way. Why? Because it's highly unusual for the national broadcaster to cross the line into seriously challenging the narrative and exposing the truth. It's cause and effect. The federal police released a statement after the raid on Wednesday, claiming no arrests are planned today as a result of this activity, and denying it was connected to an intimidating visit paid to another journalist in Canberra the previous day, though it's hard not to see a connection, given both were publishing stories on government misconduct based on documents unavailable to the public. Officers raided News Corps journalist Icke Smethurst's home on Tuesday, triggered by a story she wrote last year revealing the government's plans to dramatically expand the Australian Signals Directorate spying on its own citizens, giving the agency power to secretly access bank records, text messages, and emails without an individual's knowledge. Officers reportedly spent 7 hours picking through Smethurst's possessions. An unauthorized leak of national security information was cited as the cause. That same day, 2GB radio host Ben Fordham said he had been contacted by the Department of Home Affairs in an effort to find out how he'd obtained highly confidential information for his reporting on asylum seeker vessels. Condemning the disturbing pattern of assaults on Australian press freedom, the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, Australia's journalists union, called the raids nothing short of an attack on the public's right to know. The Afghan Files describes a number of incidents in which Australian special forces shot civilians in addition to the insurgents they were supposed to be fighting, and reveal Afghan authorities were becoming increasingly agitated over Australians allegedly killing unarmed civilians to the point that they threatened to stop working with Australians. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, has refused to condemn the raids, declaring all Australians must abide by national security laws. He won a miracle re-election last month, giving his Liberal National Party a third straight term in power. Morrison appears to be using his mandate to crack down on antagonistic journalism. Well, what happened here is absolutely appalling, but equally absolutely predictable by anyone with half a brain cell on active duty. However, given Australian journalism, from my own direct experience, overwhelmingly lacks that basic intelligence, it couldn't see it coming. And this is the same media that sat on its hands, zipped its mouth, or openly applauded my ban from Australia 4 hours before my plane left for a multi-city speaking tour. There was no outrage from the media. There was outrage from the public. There was no outrage from the media. And now they're beginning to see, only because it's put in their face, that it's me first, and then it's increasingly them. It's absolutely pathetic what we're seeing. The Australian mainstream media is, with honourable exceptions, an absolute disgrace to the word journalism. And once you go down that road, eventually you become subject to that which you cheer or stay silent about. So this is something that we're going to see more of. And given the absence of a pair by most journalists, again with honourable exceptions, what most of them will now do is start to pull back and self-censor even the limits they've been in so far, and they've been bad enough, so that this doesn't happen to them. This is all connected globally to what's happening to Assange. As an example to everyone else, this is what happens if you tell the public what we don't want them to know. Same with this ABC raid. They're saying this is what happens when you tell people what we don't want them to know.
People say I talk about some weird stuff, some far out stuff. But how about that chair that you're sitting in isn't solid? How weird is that? This reality is nothing like we think it is.
When I saw what Icke is doing, I was a bit jealous on him. Wow, look at what this guy's doing.
I don't know if anybody else could do it but him, actually.
We are in a period now where speaking your truth is not just important, it's utterly crucial to where humanity goes from here. The world needs renegades.